sometimes there are technical difficulties. We are going to move to our first guest in the governor's office. Jenny, we will move to you if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. And we'll try to get that other straightened out. Thank you.
Totally. Thank you so much for having me virtually come to talk. My name is Jenny Soselski, and I work in the governor's office as the deputy press secretary. So what basically my role entails is assisting the press office with getting the governor's message across, whether it's about vaccines. Pretty much everything is very COVID heavy these days, just given the circumstances, but really kind of thinking, what are the best ways that we can get the policies and the action the state is taking and make sure people from all communities in our state can make sure that message is heard, whether it's through social media, going to more traditional media outlets, like maybe writing an op-ed in a local paper. This isn't just necessarily messaging, it's also we do the events that the governor goes to. There have been less just for safety reasons over the past year than typically it'd be 1, 2, maybe sometimes 3 a week. But we've been getting back to getting 1 every other week to go look at what the vaccine sites are doing across the state. So really we want to show people that you shouldn't be hesitant to get this vaccine. It saves lives, it's safe and effective. Healthcare workers are working super hard to get them out. And so by going, we bring a photographer, and then there's a press reporter, and just kind of sharing the story of like, these are really hardworking people who are doing stuff that is saving lives. And when you get the chance, you should definitely get your shot. I started in the governor's office before COVID. I started in August 2019 as a press assistant after interning at the office in college. As a press assistant was a really great opportunity because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but being in the communications office, I got to really absorb a lot of information coming in and seeing what are the issues I really jazzed to write about. Kind of one of the biggest difference between communications and maybe other realms of government is that it's very much, you don't just you don't focus on a lot of long-term projects. It's a lot of rapid response. So it's what are people talking about today? Is it what's going on in the legislature? Is it preparing for a briefing on COVID restrictions? So you really get to learn about a lot of different types of things. And then regardless of what that subject is, our big goal is getting it out in a way that's making sure that people of all education backgrounds from all communities are able to understand the governor's message. Oh, Stephanie, are you on?
Yeah. Hey guys.
Oh, hey. Okay, cool. Sorry, I just saw the speaking was coming up. I actually didn't really know much about working in government growing up. So I think it's really cool that high school students have the opportunity to talk about this, just because I think it's a really great way to serve your community. And I'll say, I know we did like a mock campaign my sophomore year of high school, and I was the speechwriter. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever, but I didn't really know like that was actually a career. I knew elected officials had their aides and like kind of had close staff, but I didn't know how many people it took to make the government work as it does. So I think it's really cool that y'all have this opportunity. And if there are any questions, would be happy to take those.
We are also going to do a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, cool. No, we can take them now if anybody has any now, or we can do them at the end. And we can also follow up with Jenny if you have any later that you would like to share with us. All right. So Samitia, we have Samitia Jones joining us from the governor's office. Samitia, are you? Yes, there we go.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Jenny, for being with us today.
Happy to.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Samitia Jones. I'm a policy advisor in the governor's office. My policy portfolio is pretty lengthy, but it includes portions of Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, the Department of Commerce, specifically workforce development, and some other issue areas as well. I also serve as the staff liaison from the governor's office to the Andrea Harris Task Force, which is housed in the Department of Administration. So in a nutshell, essentially what my job is as a policy advisor is to become really familiar with my policy, the policy areas in my policy portfolio, and to understand what the governor's objectives, policy goals, and his overall mission is, and to promote that and to help my agencies, the agencies that I work with, to do the same. So there's a lot of, now it would be Zoom calls and conversations with advocates, constituents, some days, and also just agency leaders to figure out the best way to accomplish their goals and objectives, but also how those align with that of the governor's office. So I joined the governor's office right when the world shut down last year. So almost a year ago, I started April 6th, 2020. I have been fully remote the entire time, which is a little strange. But everyone has been super welcoming, and I feel like I know my colleagues, even though I've never seen them in person. Prior to joining the governor's office, I worked as a staff attorney at Legal Aid of North Carolina. So I'm a licensed attorney. I graduated from UNC School of Law in 2017 with my JD and earned my license to practice that same year. I always had an interest in policy work. Wasn't quite sure when I was in law school what direction I wanted to go, but I knew I wanted to work in the public sector, which includes the nonprofit organizations as well as government organizations. And as a staff attorney, much of my job was handling cases that required me to analyze federal legislation and policies as well as state legislation and policies. And so this position and opportunity allows me to kind of think critically about things that I'm already interested in, but is a different way to kind of tackle very similar goals. Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks, Samitia. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. So next we have Caroline Farmer.
Hey, everybody. I'm Caroline Farmer. I'm the Executive Director of the Commission on Volunteerism and Community Service inside the Governor's Office. We call it Volunteer NC because Commission on Volunteerism and Community Service is twofold to put on a card to pass around. So Volunteer NC, we at Volunteer NC do a bunch of different things. So we are the Governor's point person for disasters with volunteer groups, donations, and that can be both financial and items like water and so forth. So we do a lot of the coordination with that. We also hand out the AmeriCorps grants and monitor those in the state. AmeriCorps, some of the ones y'all might know are College Advising Corps, Habitat for Humanity, trying to think of others that you might know. There's some Literacy Corps, there's some Boys and Girls Clubs that we have various programs through. So a lot of education, community development type work, trying to make things better for folks through education and initiatives. So that's AmeriCorps. It's kind of like, if you've ever heard of Peace Corps, it's kind of like Peace Corps for inside the United States. That's what AmeriCorps is like. So if you haven't already heard of it. So we do those grants. That's the second thing we're involved in. We do the Governor's Page program. So come and spend a week and learn about various initiatives, meet the people involved in making decisions, and as part of it, doing a public service project that is geared towards increasing involvement and engagement from other youth. So that's the Governor's Page program. We also do the Governor's Volunteer Awards, and one of the awards does go to youth. So just keep that in mind for people around you that you know that are really engaged in community service that you might want to nominate. So there's information at volunteernc.org, or if you just go to the governor's webpage and search for volunteer, we're likely the first page to show up. So the last thing that we're involved in is really any initiative that increases volunteering. So like right now, I just got off a call working with vaccine volunteers. So trying to get more volunteers at a vaccine site, somebody to greet, somebody to help direct traffic, somebody to enter in information, the non-medical side of this. And so we're trying to make sure we have those people, make sure that everybody feels comfortable answering questions and so forth. So that's the type of thing that we get involved in. Now, how did I get to this this glorious job? I do have the best job, by the way. I was an art major at UNC, so painting and sculpting. Not much of a career choice because I wasn't that good. Then I went to law school at Carolina and worked as a lawyer, then went to the Attorney General's office as a lawyer, and then came with the governor when he started from Attorney General to governor. So I have been most fortunate to work with Governor Cooper for a lot of years and his staff. And they are amazing people who have the interest of the state first and foremost. And so it's lovely to work with those folks. So I feel very blessed. In terms of people in my office, I have about 12 people who do various roles, from helping with just year related to COVID, where we're recruiting people to do mentoring tutoring. And so you'll find that you'll hear more and more about Education Corps members being in your schools, because they are they're helping out those people who just need somebody to talk to outside of the family, somebody who needs sort of more hands-on tutoring, because it's kind of hard to do all of this virtually. Not everybody has the ability to hire a tutor. So it's something to really help those people who are struggling right now. And I think that's it. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to either put them in the chat, or we can do it at the question and answer. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Caroline. All right, I'm not seeing any questions right now, so we'll move on to Natalia.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be with you virtually today. My name is Natalia Bautea, and I have a similar role to Samitia, who you just heard from. Like her, I'm on the policy team, and we focus on different issues. So I focus on public safety and criminal justice policy. So what that means is I stay up to date on those issues and help the governor stay up to date. And then I help him and his senior staff think about steps that he can take to make the criminal justice system more fair and to keep people and communities safe. So I'm relatively new to the governor's office. I joined in June of last year after spending about 6 years practicing law at a nonprofit. So also kind of similar to Samitia. So in addition to that, I graduated from UNC, both for undergrad and for law school, and just really enjoy being at the governor's office and working for a governor who really cares a lot about the issues that I care about. So I think it has been a nice transition. And I will say, like, after practicing law, I was ready for a change because it was a very adversarial environment that I was in, and always in opposition to somebody else. So it's nice to be able to kind of step back and think about the big picture and, more forward thinking rather than just looking at a single person and a single issue. We really get to take a big picture approach. So Nice to be with you all and happy to answer any questions at the end.
Thank you. And there is a question in the chat right now. It says, how and when do you apply to be a governor's page?
Okay, this is for me, Caroline Farmer. Yes, you can apply anytime. We have the dates for the whole year up on the site. We have the ones that have either already been full or reserved for particular groups already marked on the schedule. So feel free to apply at any point in time. You do need 2 references, either a personal adults or a teacher to write something about you. It's pretty quick and easy though, so feel free to apply. We encourage you to.
Awesome, thank you. Now we're gonna go to Greg Moore.
Hello, everybody, and good morning. Well, to be with all you out there, and boy, do I miss humans. I think a lot of us who are extroverts, a year now, we miss humans. My name is Greg Moore. I am the Chief of Staff to First Lady Kristen Cooper. In our office, there's a whopping 2 of us. One, my employee, Caitlin, I haven't seen her in a year physically. I miss her greatly. So she's been completely virtual. I have the wonderful honor, and I will contest my dear friend Caroline Farmer. I think I have the best job. I have the wonderful honor of serving really our whole First family. As you can imagine, just like with your family, and I want you to think about it, how much it's changed in a year. It's been no different for the Coopers. It's been a new world. And I have an honor of being one of the few folks who actually sees the Coopers physically as we have moved into this virtual world. I'm not at the executive mansion right now where my office is. I'm on the 3rd floor. When you ever look at the governor's mansion, should you come to Raleigh, and I hope and pray very soon all of you are able to come back to the People's House. You look up at that big house, and up in the upper right corner is where my office is. And as a native North Carolinian for all my life, 55 years, it's the dream of a lifetime to be there and serve all the people of this state. So I get to go there just once in a while for very important reasons. And in a regular pre-COVID time, my job would really entail helping the First Lady and family members who don't live at the mansion schedule not only what the First Lady does officially with her platform and her passions of making sure that all of our communities are healthy and culturally enriched and that children are fed and loved. Beyond that, native plants, state parks, the arts. But in addition to that, to juggle the aspects of family, because a lot is asked of any First family. And the governor and the First Lady, their 3 daughters, it's no different. I tell my friends when they ask me, what do? I say, tell me what happened in your family life today. The good, the bad, the ugly, the great, the not so great. And then imagine sharing it with 10.5 million citizens. It's kind of like that. And I not only schedule what the First Lady does with Caitlin's help, I also do a little bit of advanced work to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the right people at the right time. And then on the side, I'm looking after family needs, appointments, pets. Oh my goodness, I get to see lots of First pets, and I even get to bring my puggle to work. A wonderful perk. The Coopers, as you probably know, I hope you know, love animals. And we have, let's see, right now, 4 cats, and the gardener has a Dalmatian, and the puggle visits. Anything to do with that, I get to help. During COVID, as you can imagine, I have had to be flexible. I think the word for me is pivot. And by flexible, I mean I have helped with anything you can think of, from laundry to cleaning to recycling to garbage. Yes, happily have rolled up the sleeves physically to do that. And whatever you decide to do, or what things you decide to do, I encourage you to be flexible and just with passion, jump all in. Very quickly, I will say that I was a middle school teacher. Hello, middle school folks out there. For 12 years, I went to work with Human Services in Wake County after that. And then I made some personal decisions about being healthier. Through that, I ended up being a fitness and wellness person for the state of North Carolina. Eat Smart, Move More, Weigh Less. Eat Smart, Move More, Prevent Diabetes. It's still out there. And then after caregiving years with my mom and dad, and I hope you have the blessing of turning the tables with your parents one day and looking after them. After that, Ms. Cooper asked me to be her chief of staff, a role I've proudly been serving in for almost 2 years, almost. And I would say, looking back in a nutshell, it's the decisions I made along the way in my non-professional world. It was the decisions to be the best person I could be, to treat everybody as kindly as I could treat them, and as equals throughout my life. It was volunteering, hello Caroline Farmer, volunteering at Raleigh Little Theater and meeting someone along the way who was on the board later named Kristen Cooper, who I became friends with. That paved the way for me to do things I never dreamed of doing. It was about deciding to be the healthiest person I could be, and then finding out that a job was out there to help state employees and teachers, maybe teachers you knew, be the healthiest they could be so they could teach you better. I think along the way, I have to give the most credit to my mom and my dad. I hope you will one day, to maybe your ministers, to your youth group people, to your teachers, who taught me above all else to treat people equally and to treat them with kindness. And I could talk forever, but I think I will stop and say, I pulled up a little cartoon. I don't know if you see it. Charlie McKessie from, it's like he's British, and it's sort of like a Winnie the Pooh-ish series. This has taught me a lot during the pandemic. In this one, his friend, who I think is a little mole or vole, says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And the little boy says, "I want to be kind." I implore you to be kind, and it'll pave the way, maybe a chance to work for a very kind governor, a kind first family, to do things you never dreamed of. And I'm open to any and all questions, and thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg. All right, I would turn my camera on, but I think that the problem is my computer is not wanting me to have camera and sound. So I'm glad you guys can hear me. A little bit about my journey. So my name's Olivia Comer. I started working in the governor's office in August of 2019, and I started out as an intern, which is great. I think you should always do internships. It's great experience. So I graduated from Meredith College in 2019, and I actually majored in fashion merchandising and design and communications with a public relations concentration. So internships are really what led me to where I currently am. I did everything from fashion internships to communications internships. I tried it all in college, and somehow ended up here, and I love it. What I really enjoy doing is social media. I do a lot of social media, writing, a little bit of everything. The North Carolina Business Committee for Education is a nonprofit held in the governor's office. So it's unique in that way. Our goal is to provide work-based learning to students. So everything from internships to apprenticeships, anything that gets you experience to help you decide what you want to be when you grow up. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also happy to take questions. Do you see something in the chat? Somebody wants to know how we know the vaccine is reliable. If anyone wants to answer that from the team. Caroline put in a helpful link that you can.
I can say a little bit on that as well. That's a great question, because it is a very important thing, and it's very important. It's a huge step to getting us past this pandemic, but it's really great to just ask questions about things and kind of be like, okay, this is a great step, but how do we know? So one of the things with the vaccines is that they go through a completely independent advisory committee once they do the tests. So they test it on people to say, okay, how many people fully are protected from COVID? Usually that anything above 60% is great. And then the big question is, how much can we prevent hospitalizations and deaths? And so they do these tests, and these are people who super selflessly volunteered themselves to be a part of these vaccine trials. They have no affiliation to any of the companies that are making it. They just volunteered to help us get past this pandemic. And once the results of those trials are in, a completely independent advisory committee looks at the results of these. I can't speak as much to the actual science they review. The last science I took was a marine studies class in high school. So I'm not the best chemist or scientist, but these are people with huge research and science background who are looking at the results of these and going, okay, is this something that would get us to either herd immunity or protect all of our communities? And so they look at the pros and the cons, and these three that have the Johnson & Johnson, which is just one shot, the Pfizer and the Moderna, they've been proven that have up to 95% of full protection from the virus, but all of them have full protection from cases that are extreme hospitalizations. If anyone else would like to tap in, but that's a great question, and thank you for asking.
Thanks, Jenny. And I saw Caroline also put another link in there if you want to check that out. Mara Charlotte Jennings wants to know, can I major in criminal justice, then work in the governor's office?
Hi, Mara. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's cool about working in government is that there's a lot of different people with a lot of different types of backgrounds. So we definitely have a lot of people in the governor's administration that have specialized and studied criminal justice issues. And so those skills are definitely needed, and all bright thoughts on how we can make the criminal justice system work better. It's definitely an important issue. Let's see some of the other questions we got. I know this year a lot of focus is on COVID-19. However, pre-COVID, what did you spend a majority of your time on? That's a good question, and I'm probably not the right one to answer because I started during COVID. But I know that, the governor has a lot of people that work for him across a lot of different issue areas, including all of his cabinet agencies. And so I know it's important to him that while we stay, keep our eye on COVID, that we also have people who are working on other issues, because there's a lot of issues facing North Carolina right now. But I'll let people kind of jump in who've been here longer about maybe how their routines have changed and what their job was like beforehand.
Mine may be more concrete on this answer because the First Lady wanted to visit all 100 counties of North Carolina. That's something that we're still going to make sure she does. But she had been to 83 counties. So on the day that we were all asked to stay home for the benefit of our fellow North Carolinians and our human beings, we were on our way to 2 of those counties to hit 85. And so we have had to focus inwardly. And I personally, another pivot, have learned how to make better videos and edit and do a lot of virtual things with the First Lady. And that's what I focused on. It was travel and that type of calendar keeping. And now it's more focused at home, which is just like everybody else.
Is that to the Carteret County question? Awesome.
Yes, the First Lady and I and Caitlin, I remember Carteret County specifically because we went to help a Caroline farmer. Hello, we went to help with hurricane cleanup. And so I keep pushing the volunteerism because I'm big in that myself. So more shout out to Caroline and what she does. Yes, we've been to Carteret County.
I see a question. What is the difference between the 1-shot vaccines versus the 2-shot. And Jenny put in a link for that. I see. Are there any other questions right now? I think to the COVID-19 question, I think it's a little bit different for everybody just because there are so many different jobs that you can have working in the governor's office. Everyone does something different. So everyone life changed a lot actually, but I'd say for the North Carolina Business Committee for Education, we were obviously focused on work-based learning, and now everything's virtual. So we really turned our focus to looking at making sure students were connected, especially in rural counties, making sure everyone had broadband access. And we actually were able to do some conferences that were virtual. And something really great about being virtual is you can actually reach a lot more people, because not everyone is able to like come to, say, Raleigh for a conference. That's not always like an accessible thing to do. So yeah, that's great. Kristen wants to know, before COVID-19, did you all directly work with the governor? Caroline said yes. Greg, definitely.
I can talk a little bit about this. So the communications office does a lot of direct work with the governor. Our press secretary and our digital director, they will go to events. So they travel with the governor. They still do this in COVID, but only for COVID related trips, or COVID related site visits. But before, we would be all going to, if he was holding a briefing on if it was a hurricane. So I know the times I had the most direct contact with the governor was during which hurricane? There's been several. Not Hurricane Florence, but it's slipping my mind, but it was right after I started in 2019. And so we were all in the Emergency Operations Center, which y'all have likely seen now because it's where the COVID briefings are held every week. But it would be where we all worked during the hurricane. So helping and prepare for the briefings, figure out which areas have been hit, which areas we should maybe go and see what the community is doing to recover. So there was a lot of coordinating with the governor directly, which was really cool.
And I think I can talk about this a little bit. I know I haven't had a chance to introduce myself, but hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Pegues. I am the director of OPE, the Office of Public Engagement. I can definitely talk more about that. But before I became the director of public engagement, I was actually the governor's I was on the governor's campaign as his political director. And so what that would mean was usually like the governor and I and other staff members literally traveling the state to campaign together. So I would have been probably spending a lot of time with the governor, traveling to rallies, events, speaking engagements. But because of COVID, all of that became virtual. So, it was having to figure out a way of how to campaign in a virtual world, which no one has ever done before. From, city council races all the way to, the governor, we had to figure out how to still reach people without actually going to shake hands and be with them. So, I think it has been all of us who've had to figure out how to change our jobs because of COVID. But we are really fortunate to work with a governor and a first family who have been flexible, who did not use COVID as an excuse to stop talking to the public, but have just figured out new and intuitive ways to still reach out to North Carolinians and be involved from a safe distance, i.e. your computer.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I put in the chat the link to the Student Connect website, which I mentioned a little bit ago, and those were the conferences, the virtual conferences. So we did 4 conferences. 2 of them, the first one was focused on educators in remote areas and providing different resources for them. The second one was Same conference 2.0, it was available for everyone, not just rural teachers. The third one was a STEM focused conference, and then the fourth was a cultural arts conference, which had everything from English to music. There was ukulele sessions, dance sessions, Carolina Ballet was there, and that was really awesome. So you can check those out. Those are available on the website. Are there any other questions in the chat? Let's see. Krista wants to know if she will have EOGs this year. Personally, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know if anyone here does.
Caroline, I would just suggest that you look at the public instruction website because I think the plan is to still have them from what I've read, but I don't know. That's an ever-changing area, the education area right now. So just keep an eye on the DPI website for that.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any other questions for anybody?
Olivia, I'm happy to kind of talk about what our office does, if that's helpful.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So as I said earlier, I'm the director of the Office of Public Engagement, which to rival Greg, I think I have the greatest job. I don't get to see the first pets. So funny backstory, when I actually interviewed for the job to be the governor's political director, I said, you know, one of the things is I want to play with the first pets because like I follow them on Instagram. I am like a huge pet lover. My husband won't let me get a dog yet. So I was like, I'm going to adopt all the first pets. And then COVID happened. And so we're still working that out on how I can get to hang out with the first pets more in my job. But I definitely was like, this is contingent. Me taking this job is contingent on the pet policy. So it has been, I think I get the greatest job because what I get to do is talk to people. Like that is literally my job and it is so amazing. So like many people on here, I am a recovering attorney. I thought that I was going to go to law school and that I was going to be a defense attorney and I was going to be, you know, the next Johnny Cochran. Like that was my life's goal. And then similar to Greg, I kind of figured out what I really love. And I loved policy and politics. And those were always things that I steered away from because I thought that you had to come from, you know, some really well-connected family or that you have had to have, you know, your great uncle had to be a senator once upon a time and you were kind of raised in that. I didn't think you could just jump into politics. But I took a leap. I graduated law school, got a license, and then became an intern. And I tell people this all the time because people are like, wait, what? Like I was 26 with 2 law degrees because I went an extra year of law school to get an extra degree in policy, moved to North Carolina and became an intern. And it was a humbling experience, but I always, as people have said, never, you know, shy away from change. I think that is what kind of the pervasive message today has been, like, never be scared to write your own story and to change and follow your heart because, you know, I went to school with a one-track mind of I'm going to be an attorney. And to say, well, maybe that's not the best course for me was extremely scary. But also never in a million years would I think I would be a senior staff member to a governor. Like in a trillion years. And had I not taken that leap of faith, had I not pursued my passions, you know, I wouldn't be here today. So, you know, as you all are in middle school and high school and kind of thinking about what the next 5 years are going to look like, or the next 10 years, you might have several jobs, you might have several careers, and that's okay, because all of that is leading you to where you're supposed to be. You know, my days as an attorney and as an intern and working in the private sector and working on campaigns have all given me different skill sets that I use today. So no job is worthless. You know, no job is, oh, this was awful. Everything helps build you to where you're supposed to be. So now that I've gotten experience in several arenas, I get to talk with North Carolinians from Murphy to Manio. I get to listen to, sometimes it's complaints, sometimes it's praise, sometimes it's people who really didn't know where else to turn. They have gotten closed door after closed door, trying to solve an issue, and they finally come to the office of the governor, and we're able to help them. We're able to point them in the right direction. We're able to assist them sometimes when they are really at the end of their rope. And it is such an amazing experience to get to talk and connect with people, all sorts of people, and really help them take hold of so many of the amazing resources North Carolina has. We have so many agencies and so many different resources that people oftentimes don't know about, and to be able to connect them with things that this administration is doing is really the best part of my job. Getting to talk to people like Greg. I love to talk, and I hate that I haven't seen people in person. I love doing the town halls with volunteerism, doing things with the First Lady's office in policy. You know, our office gets to touch all of that. You know, we are the public facing office for the governor. And so not getting to actually do those things has been really hard. But what's great is our office has people who have majored in communications, people who have majored in biology, people who have majored in criminal justice, all work within this office, and all have found a way to give back to North Carolina by serving in the Office of Public Engagement. So there's no one major or one path, I think, to get here. So as I always say, be in fearless pursuit of what sets your heart on fire, and you'll definitely find your way.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was great. Are there any other questions? Feel free to pop them in. We will answer them. And I definitely echo what Stephanie said. Every path is different. And you can change your mind. That's okay. It's definitely okay. Definitely suggest getting experience in everything you can, and that will help you, you know, change your mind and find the right path for you. And Natalia put in the chat, she said if you have interest in criminal justice issues and want to connect with her, feel free to reach out to her. And her email address is in the chat. Right, we'll wait a little bit longer and see if there's any other questions. And if you have a question that comes up later, feel free to reach out to your teacher. And they have my contact information. I can connect you with the right person to get those questions answered. Kelly wants to know how many staff members in total work for the Office of the Governor. I honestly do not know that number, but I can find it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure.
think it's 60 plus in the governor's office. It's, I think, 65. If, yeah, Jenny's shaking her head. So I think in Carolina shake their head. So I'm not lying to anybody. Okay, great. Yeah, it's about 65 of us. So we are actually a tight-knit office. I also started during COVID, but I feel like I've still gotten a chance to talk with people and get to know them and work together and collaborate. So it is definitely a tight-knit office. That's a pleasure to work in every day.
And I see a question about NCBCE, and our services are open to public and charter schools. Keegan wants to know, do you know when all the schools go back for 5 days a week? I do not.
So that
Oh, sorry.
that is different by district. So the governor is encouraging returning to in-person and doing it in a safe way, but the local school districts, they have the ultimate decision of how to go back and how many days a week. So that would depend on the area you live in.
Thanks, Jenny. Any other questions? All right. Well, feel free to ask your teachers if they can get you our contacts, and I can find the right person to answer any questions you have that might come up later on. All right. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank y'all. Thank you so much for having us. Bye.
Bye. Enjoy your day.